Allan Parker.
Good morning, Ian. Very lovely to be with you.
This is conversation number 9, Allan. So we're making a bit of a habit of it.
It's yeah, number 9. Who'd have thought?
I just put.
I don't know about you. I feel like we've only just begun.
well, I think that's both a joy and oh boy.
Yeah.
No, I just put the recording of conversation 8 up on LinkedIn, and I mentioned there that I'm enjoying it and valuing it as well. I didn't expect that we would be doing as many, but I feel like you. There's a long way to go.
Yeah, I feel like we're just scratching the surface.
It's a great topic, and I think not so much. It's not just a topic. More and more, it's becoming part and parcel of what I see now as a movement. I think there's a well-being movement going on. Once upon a time, we never talked about mental health in the workplace, and now everyone's talking about it.
Yep.
But it's often talked about in a negative way.
Yes. The implication is that it's ill health.
Unfortunately, that's the case, isn't it?
Yeah.
But what I'm seeing is a shift to more the narratives becoming more about well-being. And I think conversation is very much a part of well-being. And the better conversations we have at home and at work and everywhere else, the weller will be. Yeah. Which is probably a perfect little segue into today, where we're going to talk about calm and caring.
Yeah.
As being two of the pillars of wise conversations.
Yes.
And also, I think, as we were chatting before we pressed the record button, we've mentioned love a number of times, and we said last time, what's love got to do with it? And the answer is everything. And so I think we've agreed that we'll probably talk more about that as a part of the rest of our conversations, because it is. If calm and caring are part of the what's now 10 pillars,
yes,
then love might be the foundations that are underneath those pillars.
Or in quantum dynamics, I have a suspicion that the substance might be a whole lot of what we're talking about, and the form could be that the love either permeates or doesn't permeate or comes in waves. So in quantum dynamics, there's stuff, and there's waves.
I like the idea that love permeates.
Yeah.
In other words, it's part of everything. So when we're building these pillars, love's got a place because it's permeating everything. I love that. I love that idea.
Yeah. And multi-levels of love. You know, right in front of me, literally that far behind my computer screen, is a beautiful bunch of hydrangeas.
Right, okay.
And it's pure white and pale pink, with one light blue just at the back. And I'm a gardener, and I truly do love flowers, and these things are just beautiful. Or should I say lovely?
Yeah, well, and those kind of things there, as I look out my window, because my desk faces my garden,
right,
the back garden, and just about there is the beginning of a series of 8 cypress trees that go right around the periphery of our backyard. And so every morning, or any time really, and as it turns out today, I can't see a cloud in the sky from where I am. So I've got the blueness of the sky against the greenness of our cypress trees.
Yep. Gorgeous.
And so we're both reminded of nature, and that kind of I guess, is a reminder of the permeation of love once again.
Mm. Mm. Yep.
And of course, these things contribute to our well-being, don't they? I mean, how many workplaces have you been in where there hasn't been any flowers or plants?
Mm. Yep. Lots.
Or anything,
Yep.
anything that adds something of nature to the environment.
Yeah.
Now, of course, probably over my time going into workplaces, 33 years or so, that has improved.
Oh, quite. Yes.
I mean, I've been down another Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole, Alan, exploring how come we've got a narrative of fear in our society when there's a love story going on, but it's never talked about.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. You live in my head. I've been reading a book on neuroscience, but they're doing a whole chapter on Charles Darwin.
Yeah.
And Darwin, I won't bore you by pulling it out and reading it to you, but
well, he was a botanist first of all, wasn't he?
well, he was a botanist, and then broadened it to biologist.
Yes.
And the interesting thing is that I try and get this point across to people when I'm teaching neuroscience is biology.
Yes, absolutely.
It just happens to be the biology of a particular specific area.
Yeah.
And the further I go in neuroscience and understanding the biology, Ian, the more I realize that I think we've been off track a lot with psychology.
No doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. And what took me and attracted my attention during the week was Darwin's language patterns about the fight and flight process, which he didn't call fight and flight.
What did he call it?
He called it avoid and escape.
Right. Mm.
So his premise was, because he was marvelously clever in how he wrote, he didn't argue things. He put forward propositions.
Yeah.
Which is a lovely, healthy way of having a conversation and caring for somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. I've really been zeroing in on this with. I had a call during the week of someone who'd been referred to me by a long-term client, and the guy says to me, he says, "I've been to your website, and I've had a conversation with this guy, and I already trust you. But what do you actually do? Can you give me just a?" He said, I know you have conversations, but. And so in the moment, what I said was, I had to go and scramble for a bit of paper later on to write down so I didn't forget what I actually said. But in the moment, I said, I host possibility conversations.
Yes.
And then I provide mentoring and resources to help you to turn possibility into reality.
Mm-hmm.
And he went, right,
lovely.
When do we start?
It's a lovely, that's better than an elevator pitch.
I mean, I've been talking about possibility for more than half my life.
Yes.
But I think when we're in the room and we talk about possibility, and I was inspired by quantum physics, where the one of the lessons is we live in a world of infinite possibility.
Yes. Yeah.
That the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
And I find that uplifting and exciting, because it doesn't matter where we are or what situation we're in, the possibilities to move are endless. And if that's the premise, and
Mm.
And this is where, you know, having conversations about possibility, or about the word you used, it slipped my mind now, but it's another P that you talked about before.
Potential.
But it was not potential. It's anyway, it doesn't matter.
Propositions.
Propositions. Because when there's a proposition or a possibility before us, we don't have preconceived. It takes out the preconceived ideas stuff,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yep, and just brings in choice.
And of course, you know, love's like this. You know, if love's the premise, if the basis of our living together is love and not fear, which is the current normative now. But I tell you what, the more I do research on this, the more I find the love stories, of course. They're everywhere.
I found it in Charles Darwin's right.
You found it in Charles Darwin. It's everywhere. But it's not a pervasive narrative.
Yeah.
Because, well, there's lots of reasons for the because, but I think we've got so used to fear-based conversations or control-based conversations, which is a close cousin of fear.
Yep.
And yet, when love's the premise, you know, the permeation, as you say, the conversations can go anywhere.
Yes.
And when possibility is the focus, you get curiosity and wonder and awe and all the other great human qualities. And you end up, even though we know that a wise conversation is by nature continuous, when it kind of has a premature, you know, when we just leave it for now and we come back later, but we sort of kind of leave it for now, when we sign off from where we are right now, we know that we're in this realm of possibility still. And as we go out and put into action, as we talked about in the conversation, the more we're able to bring these things to life and make it real.
Yes.
The more I think about this, the more I reckon life's an experiment.
Yes.
You know, we're just experimenting.
Yep.
All of our waking times, and probably you'll have a theory that we're experimenting when we're sleeping as well.
Oh, very much. Because the rapid eye movement, the REM sleep, is where the brain organizes all the things that's happened to it, particularly in that day, that it hasn't got connected, and there were just 50 different things I did.
Yeah.
I go off, you were talking about your good sleep last night.
Yeah.
We go off to sleep, we drop into deep sleep, which rests us and allows our immune function to be regenerated. And then once we've done enough deep sleep, we come up into REM sleep, which is rapid eye movement.
Yeah.
And you can tell if you're watching somebody sleeping, you can tell when they're in REM sleep, because the eyelids actually do quiver. And in REM sleep, my brain's trying to make sense of all the things that's happened during the day, pulls threads together, and what it's doing is experimenting with possibility.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So
wonderful.
It's part of the process called quantum oscillation.
Yes, and we talked about that.
Yeah.
One of the previous things, yes.
Yeah.
Experimenting in possibility.
Yeah.
What a wonderful thing to not just do while we're asleep, but while we're awake.
Yeah. Now, Ian, can I share with you an experiment I did deliberately early in the week? I worked with a very large segment of the beef cattle industry early in the week. And we had a really important, complex meeting for a negotiation that's been going on a very long time and not particularly successfully. And not a lot of love, if I can say that. And Darwin would say, while you're running from while you're fighting or competing, the pieces of your brain that does experiment, that does proposition, that does explore possibility, is having a rest. Because it won't function while you've got the oversupply of dopamine, adrenaline, and cortisol in the system. And if you take it one step further, if I live in a fast-paced corporate world, which a lot of people live, and I've always got the alert system on, I've always got too much dopamine and too much adrenaline and too much cortisol, which means, Ian, I'm going to be opinionated, use definitive language, and without knowing, I'm not caring for you and providing you choice, nor allowing possibility to occur or propositions to occur, because I'm fast getting to the outcome. And the right amount of dopamine doesn't occur.
Right.
And if the right amount of dopamine doesn't concern, we can't go back to our session several weeks back. We can't be considered. We're rapid and impulsive.
Yes.
Which,
yes. And that's denying possibility.
It absolutely. The more definitive my language, the more convergent my thought, the less chance there is of you feeling like there's a place for you to put a view.
I heard someone talking about this flight fight. I forget who it was. My apologies to whoever it was or is. But they also talked about there's freeze and flow. And so we can choose fight or flight or freeze or flow.
Yes.
And it seems to me, and we've talked about this previously too, that in order to have a wise conversation, we've actually got to slow down.
To speed up.
Well, another great paradox, isn't it? Because, and that's part of the reason why I know this morning when I literally bounded out of bed.
Yes, yes.
I was a bit worried I might have hurt myself in the process.
Nice work.
Because when I'd opened my eyes, I immediately felt like I'd had the rest that I needed.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when I got up and opened the blind in the lounge room and saw the sunlight, I was again full of the joy of it.
Yes.
Wonderful. And it ran through my mind at that moment. Another day, I didn't use the word experiment wasn't in my mind, but it was another day to play with possibility.
Yeah, yeah. How lovely, how lovely.
And every day is like that.
Yeah.
And I know when I walk into a room where everyone in the room wants to play with possibility, I'm already excited before anyone opens their mouths.
Now, Ian, you've given me the link for my experiment with the cattle people.
Yes.
Because I thought to myself, and they've been very adversarial, and lots of subgroups. And I thought I've got to break it. And I had a very small amount of time to do what we needed to do. So I actually got their permission to, any time they would go, hey, hang on, my concern about that is, and if anybody said my concern about that, or the thing I don't like about that is, or the problem with that is, or the challenge with that is, I got their permission to come in and ask them, and it's going back to your check-in point from you were talking about earlier, to check in, could I find out before we got detail about what the objection was, could I find out what your proposition was?
Yes.
So I reckon we saved, we'd have to be an hour and a half by people not going into their, and going back to your word, control is only an overcompensation for fear.
Yeah.
I'm frightened that the proposition at hand will not give me what I need. So I go into control and I want to counter.
Yeah.
the proposition at hand. And then I put forward my objection.
Yeah.
And
so what's driving that, as I've explored down this rabbit hole of why fear being the normative narrative and not love, one of the big reasons is ideology drives. So the reason the guy says I've got a problem with that is because ideology clicked in.
And Ian, let me verify that for you as a crazy linguist.
Yeah.
I put forward and I go, oh, Ian, I've got a concern about that. And then I go, because, or the reason, and out pops my belief or my ideology.
That's it.
In the same sentence. So all I did was this experiment to see if I could get in anytime anybody said because, or the reason is, and I'd just come in and go, may I just check, can you let me know what your proposition is? And Ian, we did that all day long, and not one person came back to their objection.
Isn't that wonderful? You know what? Had we have had some of the world leaders had these conversations and parked ideology,
oh my goodness,
there would be no war in Ukraine.
Yes.
This is the sad this is the sad underlying fact of fear-based narrative instead of love-based narrative.
See, go to my neuroscience again. When there's fear, there's adrenaline, cortisol, and oversupply of dopamine. And when there's oversupply of dopamine, cortisol, and adrenaline regularly, there is a production of a very toxic substance. Well, it's not a substance. It's actually called a genetic transition factor called delta phos-B.
Delta
phos-B.
Right.
And delta phos-B triggers or switches on the addiction gene.
Oh, God.
Isn't that a frightening piece of information?
Yes, it is.
And it holds me, Ian, in fear of not having whatever it is I'm addicted to. And if that pattern's running, my brain is less able to produce serotonin, which is joy.
Yeah.
Less able to produce norepinephrine, which is excitement, enthusiasm, and passion. And almost impossible to produce oxytocin, which is the neurotransmitter that allows us to love something or someone.
Incredible. And because when you think about this, I've begun having these conversations about the transition from labeling things as mental health to looking at well-being. I see the Treasurer of Australia is about to join the sensible people in the world and have well-being as part of the next budget.
Well done.
But what stops well-being? Two things: fear and toxicity. They're the big ones that I've noticed, and I've done a lot of study because, as you know, I'm currently on a path with my health of immunotherapy.
Yes.
And I've had a close look at toxicity in the body and the power of what's in the body called the mitochondria, which you would have no doubt come across. And some would refer to as gut health. But apparently, when we're born, when we're children, we have 20,000 mitochondria in a cell, and over time that gets less. Now, in a cancer cell, it's basically so bad, the mitochondria, that it can't heal itself.
Right.
And what immunotherapy does, it gives the immune system such a boost that the cell can repair itself.
Wonderful.
Hence, you can get past the cancer. And this kind of, but it's made me think a lot about, as I've studied the mitochondria, it's made me think a lot about toxicity in the workplace and what causes it. And of course, fear is a big factor. Control, as you say, is just an expression of fear.
Yeah, compensation for.
Ideology is also an expression of fear, because we fear what other people think. Partly.
Yep.
And then, of course, all this is going on in conversations.
When you were talking about ideology, you clench your fist. And ideology is a set of belief systems that I have become fixated on.
Yeah.
And reduce choice in my own mind about other alternatives or options.
And you've just stated in a clear way that that's bad for my health.
Ian,
because it causes an oversupply of the drugs you mentioned.
I'm going to go macro and then super micro. If you use your term toxic organization, it just means that people are having suboptimal experiences.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
and why would you do that if you were conscious of it?
If I go micro, the micro reason is that you are spending more time inhaling than exhaling.
Oh God, yes.
Now, every time you breathe in, it stimulates your sympathetic nervous system and sparks alertness. Every time you breathe out, it stimulates your parasympathetic system, and that produces relaxation. And at a micro, nano level, every time you breathe out and breathe out longer than you breathe in and empty your lungs, your immune system and your mitochondria is getting a moment to heal. Breathing out removes carbon dioxide, and the carbon dioxide from our lungs that we breathe out carries what are called, I've just drawn a blank, let me go there. It takes what are called free radicals out of the brain, which are the most toxic substance in the human body. And it's the byproduct of oxygen burning glucose in your brain to produce glutamate. And it's the byproduct.
Yes.
And every time I breathe out, Ian, I remove free radicals out of the brain.
And of course, as one of the great causes of toxicity in the body is sugar.
Uh-huh.
And we have become overwhelmed by a food industry that's feeding us too much sugar. And the mitochondria has a heart attack. Mm-hmm. Because, as you know, the heart has its own brain.
Yep. And can I say to you that the sugar, when you talk about sugar, cane sugar, doesn't permeate into the brain cell. Glucose is the only sugar that permeates into the brain cell.
Right.
So if I'm having too much cane sugar and not enough, what I do is I carry sunflower seeds with me the whole time, because sunflower seeds, being a seed, is concentrate carbohydrate, and my bloodstream will turn it into glucose, and it's the sugar that gives me mental clarity and energy.
I'm immediately going out and getting some sunflower seeds.
I carry them all the time.
No, I do know the seed thing. And just to shift, we had a moment of joy yesterday when I was meeting with my doctor.
Yes.
And she tells me with joy on her face that my body is producing its own steroids.
Oh, nice.
Via the blood test, you see.
Nice.
Because a while back, three times, I think, in the past 18 months, I've needed steroids for various reasons. Mm-hmm. And they're not good for you long term when you're taking the chemical version.
Actually, the external ones, yeah.
But with joy, she tells me your body's doing its own thing.
Wow.
steroids and other things. She mentioned glucose because they test that all the time.
Yes, it's very important. It's your most stable. Your blood sugar and your energy level will do that with glucose. It'll do that with sucrose. I
have a home test that I do regularly because I've got to make sure that my sugar levels are less than 7. Really, is the ideal place.
Yep.
But these are all, when you relate them, because I'll ask you this question. I've had a few answers to this, but in the workplace, what is, or in a conversation, what is sugar? As in cane sugar.
What is sugar?
Because if cane sugar is bad, if cane sugar is bad for it, what is the, as a metaphor?
It's not a metaphor, it's a fact.
What is cane sugar in conversations?
It's the thirst for the reward system to be rewarded. So we have a reward system.
Yeah.
And every time we produce a reward, so when I say to you, Ian, lovely comment, that actually is received by your reward system and provides you with both the tiniest little shot of dopamine and a shot of serotonin. And if it's about something you're really pleased about, it'll give you a little hit of norepinephrine, and you're in great shape.
That the psychologist William James, he said, the deepest human desire, so not just any old desire, the deepest human desire is a craving to be appreciated.
And another, I used to say, acknowledged, appreciated, affirmed, and accepted. I call them the 4 words that are socially acceptable in the corporate world for love.
Give me those words again.
Acknowledge, appreciated, affirmed, and accepted.
Nice bunch of A's.
They're the 4 A's. It's a quadruple A rating. No AAA rating, it's a quadruple A rating.
Yeah, very nice.
And I, for years, used to drop those out and go, how many of you think that's important? And everyone will put up their hand.
Yeah, it's a nice.
And I go, and they're the 4 A's that really add up to love.
Wonderful. Yeah. I think when they're established, we can go to a place, because I talk a lot about, let's work on appreciation and appreciating one another, because eventually that leads to people feeling valued, fulfilled, and a way down the track, loved. And when people feel loved, their best work happens.
And because when they feel love, oxytocin occurs, and it's the most euphoric natural substance we can produce in our body. It's why I did a very brief session with an athlete in Melbourne early yesterday morning, and he was a little concerned about his performance. And I said to him, what would you like to have happen on Saturday? And he said, oh, I'd like to win. And I went, oh, and I noticed a little bit of a glint occur. And I said, can you say that for me again? Let me ask you the question. What would you like to have happen on Saturday? And he said, I'd like to win. The second time he said it with a head nod. And then I said, let me ask you that again. And the next time he said it with this beautiful big smile. And I went, that's an explosion of serotonin and an explosion of oxytocin. He loves the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when you can, in 4 sentences, produce a complete change in your persona, there's a powerful, the possibility and the potential, Ian,
Yeah.
of me just going, so Ian, how would you like it to be? Not what's your concern about the bloody thing. Who cares?
Yes, because how would you like it to be?
How would you like it to be?
That's a love narrative.
Huh?
Whereas the fear narrative is, I have a problem with that.
Yes. Yeah.
Or any of those other kind of expressions.
Yes.
I was saying to someone earlier in the week, and they were commenting on, because I used to be a person who had, very strong opinions and would express them as such. It's still part of my nature.
I do remember in the early days experiencing that, are you?
I've still got strong opinions, but I now hold them lightly. And very rarely do they get expressed with the ferocity that they once did.
Hold them lightly and lovingly.
Because it makes a difference to how other people then receive you. Because if we're ferocious with our opinion or express our ideology as a fact, and we've got a force with it, then it closes down the conversation, puts people off.
Yeah.
Someone said to me once, you've got such an energy field that you're scary when you're in that frame. And I've come to appreciate that energy field, and I can still be forceful, but in a way that's loving, not in a way that produces fear.
Yeah.
And I'm a work in progress.
Aren't we all?
what fires me up the most, and when I think about it, it's always the thing that fires me up the most, and it's injustice.
Yes. Yeah.
Or what I perceive to be injustice. But I've changed my approach to, when I see something that I perceive to be unjust, I've changed my approach to it. When I'm in a room with people and I see injustice, I used to call it out.
Just watch the feast.
which straight away wrecked any chance of getting past it.
Yeah. Yes.
So now I wait with that and might eventually get to a naming when the room is ready for the naming.
Yeah.
But mostly in the last few years, don't do that, because it eliminates possibility.
Yeah.
It's like my boss used to say to me, it's my way or the highway. And I probably inherited a bit of that for a time.
Yeah. Ian, you sparked 2 things. One is, in the early 80s, I worked for an American personal development program, and they used to write the word emotion with a hyphen between the E and the M. And they referred to it as energy in motion.
Oh, okay, that sounds like Lou Tice's work.
It was, it was actually Russell Bishop.
Right.
And Bishop and Tice were buddies.
Okay, because
Lou Tice, I haven't heard Lou Tice. Lou Tice, the Pacific Leadership Institute or something.
Something like that. Yeah. He was an early influencer on my work.
Yes. Yeah. Ditto. And when I was reading Darwin's work earlier in the week, he has a beautiful reframe on energy, and that is energy emotions are the stimulus of all movement.
Stimulus of all
movement.
Movement, yes.
If somebody is offering love, you'll move toward it. If somebody is offering sadness, you'll move toward them and comfort them. If somebody's offering anger, you'll move toward them or run away from them or freeze. If somebody's offering belligerence, you'll avoid them.
Yes, I can see.
And he says there's no emotion to which a stable and safe and sustainable human will always move toward or away from.
How wonderful, Alan, that today, without actually naming it, we've talked about the two things that we were going to talk about, caring and calm.
Yep.
And how they do underpin, which is why we've named them as pillars.
Yep.
They're such within themselves. They just mean an atmosphere.
Yeah.
Where possibility, like your hydrangeas behind you, possibility can bloom.
Yeah.
Whereas the opposites of caring and calm. So I guess the opposite of calm is chaos, I suppose.
Chaos, agitation,
anxiety.
Yeah.
The opposite of caring is probably I don't have an opposite for caring. I guess it's
meanness.
Meanness is one. But they do. If you look at the opposites of each of the calm and the care, they do amplify Darwin's insight that emotions and where we began this fight or flee or freeze or flow.
Yes.
It's the feeling, the emotion that is the stimulus for the movement, either towards or away.
Yes. And if we link that back to your mate Lou Tice, Lou was a big advocate for you move toward what you focus your attention on.
Yes.
So if I go back to my athlete who wants to win, the attention on wanting to win produces all of the responses that increase the possibility or the potential, or liberates the potential.
And of course, if he stays with that state, when he goes down on the blocks on Saturday, then the chances of him winning are significantly greater.
Yeah. Because once I focus on what I want, there is almost an intrinsic calming in that. If I'm involved in something and I'm operating from fear, there isn't calmness associated. But the moment I put it in my world of golf, the moment I look at that flag and the flag flutters in the wind in the distance, that's where my attention goes. And the moment I get that attention focused, all of a sudden I'm calm and composed and ready to, and the calming produces relaxation. Yeah,
it's fair to say you can't play a good golf shot in a state of anxiety.
Not quite.
I know that one.
It's both of my two, golf and marathon and ultra marathon running. You can only run as far as your body can stay calm and relaxed. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And when you look at the great distance runners, they all had that feel of relaxation, didn't they?
Yeah. Ian, what was the most pressing experience that you can recall straight away that you realized that you were in less than an optimal state, that you were a bit tense, and you caught yourself and returned back to a calm, composed state?
Yeah,
what did you do to produce the calm state quickly?
The last time I had an MRI, because I am a bit claustrophobic.
Right.
And I caught myself in fear.
Yes.
And I just said to myself straight away, I'm going to, enjoy this.
Yeah.
I'm going to value this time.
Yeah. So as you were going into that cylinder that they slide you into,
yeah,
you could feel the tension coming. And then what did you say to yourself? Exactly.
I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to take this time and have value.
Yes. So what do you want to achieve on Saturday?
Same sort of thing.
I want to enjoy it. Yeah.
I mean, the nurse says to me at that moment,
yeah,
do you want some music? And I went, yeah, because I know music helps me. Right. So he gives me the headphones.
Yeah.
And straight away they started playing Beatles songs, which are a favorite. So I'm already valuing the time before the things even started. So when the noise of the machine comes, which is what I find the most off-putting, when the noise comes, I was already in a state of valuing the time. So it didn't affect me in a way that it can.
Yeah.
Of course, we have this opportunity. I call this responsibility.
Yes.
It's the stimulus.
To respond.
Yep. That wonderful work of Viktor Frankl.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He said that in that after stimulus, there's a moment, and in that moment we have a choice.
Yep.
As to how we respond, and he said, that our choice determines our freedom.
Yep.
And I think that's because whatever happens, we have that moment and we make a choice. I could have stayed in fear, or instead, it's a choice.
In neuroscience, we go stimulus or event and pay attention. Did you go to thinking, feeling, reacting, or responding?
Yeah.
And those things can change order.
Yes. Yes. I know I'm at my best when I'm focused on feelings and responses.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm at my worst if I allow the stories that I've told myself in my brain and they become reactions.
Yes.
I'm much more closer to my optimum self when I'm focused on how I'm feeling and responding, not reacting.
Yeah. And is that also, Ian, we're going back to your comment earlier about choosing your state, is that also about whatever the stimulus is, I'll choose my response and I'll choose what I feel?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's the thing. Whatever the stimulus, whether that's like, but the moment I see the MRI, I go into the room and see the MRI machine, I go into a state of anxiety.
Yeah.
Because I have a tendency to be a bit claustrophobic.
Yeah.
But in that moment, I can choose to react badly or respond positively.
Yeah.
Now, the power of knowing that, of course, means I can go through the experience without any anxiety.
Yeah.
I remember.
So going back to your juxtaposition, it is your ability to respond more so than it is your responsibility.
Yes.
But your ability to respond.
More so, it's my choice first.
Yeah.
I think I know I've got the choice.
Yeah.
This can be bad or good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That having that choice, more in the point, knowing that I've got the choice I think then you do choose the feeling and you choose the response.
Wow. Yes. And
It takes practice.
I'm hearing that and going, if I were to follow Ian's instruction right away now, I would actually be taking care of myself. Going back to care.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
You would. And it's like, since I've studied a little bit about the mitochondria,
yes,
I now look at labels before I buy stuff in the supermarket.
Yes.
Because I want to know the sugar content.
Yep.
Because I know that cane sugar is bad for me.
It won't do the healing in the mitochondria in your brain.
No.
But the sunflower seeds will. And so will
seeds. I'm into sunflower seeds. I have had them, but I'm now going to carry them.
So will a regular walk. While you're walking, if you breathe out for 3 steps and breathe in for 2 and out for 3, it'll heal your mitochondria.
There you go. Well, I'm doing that.
Yeah,
I've got that. Another joy. I'm back to the full walk.
Yeah,
which is great. And yes, as you say, in for 2 and out for 3 is a great philosophy. And
stimulates serotonin right throughout your body, which is the chemical that produces joy.
It's also simple when you say it, Allan.
It's biological, isn't it? People say, "Oh, it's great psychology." It's not psychology at all. It's pure biology. Yeah.
I'm kind of the view, and I don't mean to be unkind, but I'm paying more attention to biologists and less to psychologists.
Boy, I've got given that I haven't practiced clinically since 1987, I think I'll put my money on biology.
Yeah. No, there's just something about the I went in the study of mitochondria. You end up going back to a German doctor back in the 1800s called Otto Warburg. And he won a Nobel Prize twice, I think, at least once, but I'm pretty sure twice. But when he first put forward his theory of the gut and the cell, and because he believes that cancer is a cell disease, not a genetic disease, which is what most oncologists don't take this view. Yes. Yeah. But he was laughed at when he first made his thesis about the mitochondria.
Right.
But he did receive some good news before his death, but there's still a lot of doubters out there. But in my own personal experience, I feel he was right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think I'm living proof that he was right. Yeah.
Ian Berry, in a sentence, can you summarize our talk this morning?
Self-care and calm has much to do with the choices we make, particularly around the choices about how we feel and how we respond to situations.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine is, I'm going to take the message, you've sparked Lou Tice back into my brain. If I focus on what I want, I have a better chance of getting what I want.
Yep.
And if I do that calmly and with care, I'll do very well all the time. Yeah.
A great summary. Now, listen, mate, hang on. After we end record, just hang on, because there's a couple of things I want to talk to you about.
All right. Ian Berry, what a joy.
Allan Parker, a great privilege once again.
It is indeed. Thanks, Ian.
Right.
See you next week.
See you.